Let's just start with that quote for a second. These aren't just the words of some typical conqueror. No, this is a promise of total and utter erasure, delivered by Nahunte, the king of Elam, to what was then the greatest city on earth, Babylon. You see, in 1158 BC, the Elamite army did something absolutely unthinkable. They didn't just smash through the walls and defeat the king. They walked into the city's most sacred temple, its very soul, and they stole its god. For the people of Babylon, this wasn't just a defeat. It felt like the universe itself had just ended.
Now you gotta understand, for over 500 years, a single dynasty, the Kassites, had ruled Babylon. They had created one of the most stable kingdoms in the ancient world. But their security wasn't just about high walls. It was built on a really complex international system of alliances. And as the Bronze Age came to a crashing, violent end, that whole system just collapsed, leaving Babylon, for the first time in centuries, completely and utterly alone.
So, to really get why Babylon fell, we have to look at how it survived for so long in the first place. The Kassite kings, well, they were absolute masters of the long game. Their power wasn't just raw military might. It was this skillful, patient diplomacy that kept all the great powers of the age in a really delicate balance. This whole thing was a world held together by constant communication. Seriously, think of it like an ancient United Nations. Royal courts from Egypt all the way to modern-day Turkey were always in contact, arranging strategic marriages, sending these lavish gifts, signing treaties that locked in their borders. This web of relationships, that was Babylon's greatest shield.
And then, almost in the blink of an eye, it all fell apart. This wasn't some slow, gradual decline. It was a sudden, catastrophic failure of the entire international order.
It was like a domino effect. The Hittite Empire up in Anatolia, a huge power, poof, just vanished from history. Egypt, getting battered by invaders, just pulled back into itself, totally focused on its own survival. All of a sudden, the letters Babylon was sending out just stopped getting answered. The network that had kept them safe for half a millennium was just gone. So here's the bottom line. Babylon was still this rich, ancient, legendary city, but all of its powerful friends had disappeared. It was dangerously and, as it turns out, fatally isolated.
And, you know, someone is always watching when a great power gets weak. To the east, up in the highlands of what is now modern Iran, was the kingdom of Elam, and its very ambitious king, Nahunte, looked down at the plains of Mesopotamia, and he didn't just see a vulnerable neighbor. He saw the opportunity of a lifetime.
And this is so important. He didn't frame his invasion as just some smash and grab for treasure. No, in his own inscriptions, he presented it as a totally legitimate act. He was recovering lands and honors that he believed rightfully belonged to Elam from centuries ago. This made his campaign an existential threat. He wasn't there just to conquer. He was there to reclaim.
And this is where that isolation really hits home. In 1158 BC, the Elamite armies march, and nobody comes to help. There's no coalition, no allied army to stop them. The Kassite state, which had lasted for more than 500 years, just collapses in a single lightning-fast campaign. Its last king was captured, hauled away to Elam in chains, ending one of the longest ruling dynasties in history.
But believe it or not, all of that, the physical destruction, the end of the dynasty, that wasn't even the worst part. The most devastating act, the one that would scar the soul of Babylon for centuries, came after the battle was already over.
Okay, so to really get what happens next, you have to understand something huge about their worldview. For us today, a statue is just a representation, a symbol. For the Babylonians, the cult statue of a god was the god's physical presence on earth. It wasn't a symbol of the god, it was his home. So if you control the statue, you control the god himself.
So just imagine the scene. Elamite soldiers march past the city's fallen defenders and walk straight into the Esagila, the great temple of Marduk. This is the holiest site in the entire city, the literal center of their universe. And they did the one thing no one thought possible. They seized the physical form of Marduk, the divine protector of Babylon, the king of all the gods.
And with that one act, the universe broke. By carrying the god away to their own capital, the Elamites hadn't just stolen a priceless artifact, they had literally kidnapped Babylon's protector. The cosmic order was shattered. All the rituals that kept the world running couldn't be performed correctly anymore. The city had lost its divine patron. And this really poses the central question that would haunt the Babylonians for generations.
The city itself was still standing, right? People still lived there, but its entire purpose, its sacred connection to the divine, had been severed. What even is a city when its meaning has been stolen?
And the reason we know just how deep this wound went is because the Babylonians never, ever stopped writing about it. For centuries, this event became a central story of loss, a cautionary tale for the future. And just look at how they talked about it. They didn't write about it like a simple military defeat. No, they wrote about it as a cosmic event, a great flood. The key point is that they saw it as Marduk himself abandoning his own city, leaving his people to be destroyed. It was a trauma of divine rejection.
This one event completely reshaped Babylonian politics and religion for the next 1,000 years. For any future king, there was only one primary mission: bring Marduk home. No ruler could be truly legitimate, no New Year's festival truly complete, as long as the god was in exile. The deepest wound wasn't the broken walls, it was the empty pedestal in the Holy of Holies.
And, the city did endure. In time, new dynasties rose from the ashes. The walls were rebuilt, even stronger than before. Life, in a physical sense, did go on.
But that psychological scar, it remained. The story of the stolen god was copied by scribes, recited by priests, and it became a foundational myth for their entire culture. It was this permanent warning, a memory burned into their identity, about what happens when the world order collapses and a civilization loses its divine protector.
And that really is the ultimate takeaway here, isn't it? This story, from over 3,000 years ago, it reminds us that you can burn buildings and you can tear down walls. But the most devastating, the most complete victory you can have over a people is to steal their purpose, to take away the central idea that gives their world meaning. Now that is a wound from which it can take centuries, if ever, to recover.